Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
World of Capes and Lunatics, gods and monsters. Sometimes you need a good lawyer, and that lawyer is She-Hulk, attorney at large. Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz. All right. You see my little attorney at large. You see, I
was just going to say at large would mean she's on the run, right? But that would be more like...
at law, that's right.
Attorney, that's large.
Hey, she is a large attorney. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. Mozz, tonight's episode, Season 1, Episode 4, Is This Not Real Magic? She-Hulk's new client, Wong, is suing a magician for unauthorized use of the mystic arts. The director this week is Kat Corio. Melissa Hunter, Jessica Gao, created for television by, gets those credits. John Buscema, along with our good old friend Stan Lee, gets that She-Hulk. Well, you see, John, they're doing it again. They're saying just John Buscema, a man unto himself, gets that She-Hulk created by credit. Stan Lee is sharing his credit with Jack Kirby, as he should. But the hardest working two people in show business this week, Phil, or Mozz.
I'll take it.
Dana Schwartz and Cody Ziegler are two staff writers. Such an episode. Mozz, where to begin? Let's be glad that the parole paperwork for Blonsky's finally done. Woohoo! We are very happy about that. We woohooed parole paperwork. And honestly, that's the thing. It's like saying Jen felt bad about it. She did not. She loved it. She lives for this stuff. She lives for it.
For the win.
For the win, because she got the parole. She got what she needed out of the deal. And that was her job. And she's good at her job. And when you're good at your job and you like your job, it's actually really fun when you get a win. Yep. So, her assistant can shame her for it all she wants. But Jen deserves a woohoo now and then.
Yeah.
We do, of course, get a creepy guy. Because wouldn't be an episode of She-Hulk without a creepy guy hitting on you. Which,
we get a few of them here, don't we?
Oh, well, we do Hulk Todd. Yeah, that's a whole other thing when we get to Hulk Todd. But I meant the first one, the guy with the white hair who goes up and says, hate to see two pretty ladies all alone. It says, well, if there's two of us, by definition, we're not alone. And to be fair, it's one of those things. See, not being a woman, I don't know how weird it is for men to just randomly hit on you. But then again, I hit on women every so often when I was single, when I was on the prowl, as we used to say. So maybe it got annoying at a certain point if every man was doing what I was doing. Because,
anytime you have to let somebody down about anything, you feel like a little bad about it, and that's a little uncomfortable, and you resent them for putting you in that position to have to, make somebody feel bad. It's like, now I got to carry that burden, and like that alone must be super annoying to have it with the frequency that they probably do. And then on top of that, there's the danger aspect. So it's got to be a whole mess.
Yes. But, ironically, the trials and travails of hetero life, such as it is actually our B story. If you consider, when you think about what's the most important story in the arc, I do think it is the Wong and Donnie Blaze conflict story, because I do feel that and see, here's the thing. There's a lot of layers in this, and I want to try and unpack those right now. Mm-hmm. First off is Donnie Blaze even getting a room at Camertage. Because if we think about everything that Strange had to go through to even talk to the Ancient One, it seems unlikely that Donnie Blaze just got in. And part of me thinks that this is a direct effect. And this is like where I think, for all the light and joyful fun we're having, there's going to be a real dark mid-season turn here. Because this is post Multiverse of Madness. This is post No Way Home. Effectively, this is after the Scarlet Witch has decimated the armies of sorcerers at Camertage, which means they maybe are like having a little bit of a open casting call, if you will.
Oh.
So that basically anyone who shows up and says, you want to learn the Mystic Arts? Okay, we're going to show you, because honestly...
So do you think he went AWOL? Is that why he has the ring?
Yeah, well, that's effectively what
that
they
was
said.
Like a training bow staff, like a wooden kendo stick, and he just absconded with it.
Well, because arguably it's useless if you don't know how to use it. Although there's another possibility which we might get to in a minute.
Because what's his name was able to use it, Peter Parker's best friend.
Yeah, Ned Leeds was able to use it,
right? But that was that because he was special, or
or maybe there's an argument to be had that at a certain level, being a person not in his own head and trying to control things actually makes you a better sorcerer. Like, it's good to be the guy who can see all the angles and to think about things surgically and what's the best path forward. Like when you're using a time stone to see every possible future. And like, what are the exact steps I need to take to make this future be the real future? But that for a lot of basic magic, a lot of times it is literally just saying, magic, do as you will. I'm just going to be the vessel. I'm going to be the person letting this energy out. Let's see where it goes. And we're going to try and think of ways that we can maybe improve upon it. But that generally speaking, we are not going to be in charge of the magic so much as we're just going to let the magic flow and let wackiness, as it were, ensue.
Well, yeah. See, the wackiness is an interesting term. It sort of doesn't let you see the true dangers of the magic, right? So it's an interesting question that appeared to me was like, can you really tell somebody you can't use magic? It's a property of the universe, right? It's a property of the universe. Mm-hmm. Anybody can go in and fiddle with it. How can you say that you can't use it? And then if you find an analog for it in the real world, right? And it was like immediately, if you told somebody you couldn't use physics, right? But we do tell people you can't use certain physics, right? You can't create a nuclear bomb in your basement, right?
So, well, although to be
certain
fair,
applications of this universal field or force or whatever it is that you're manipulating should be regulated. So maybe the Donnie Blazes of the world shouldn't be allowed to mess with things that can obviously open portals to hell.
And to be fair, we don't, generally speaking, allow people to just get fissible uranium.
Right.
Although
and is that what like his little ring would be considered, like a weaponized
effectively it
form
is.
of?
Right?
I mean,
really, That's the thing, because I mean, if you've read the book, The Radioactive Boy Scout, or if you've saw that episode of Young Sheldon where they basically recreated the premise about how you could use certain like low-level if you could collect enough low-level radioactive elements together, you actually could create a small fission reaction that could create energy and possibly actually cause real danger to everyone in your neighborhood accidentally, which is why, like Reed Richards says, you need to make sure your shielding is good. Well, actually, technically, Ben Grimm said that. But
Reed didn't listen, did he?
No, he didn't. That was the problem. That's all. And that's why he's very upset about the whole thing. Even now when they say, oh, now there was actually another group that actually the cosmic rays were completely unpredictable because they were actually an attack, and which is the second time they've redefined what the cosmic rays were doing. So personally, I really want to go back to the old days where it was just an unpredictable flare. Just something crazy happened at the sun, and it just happened. Let chaos be the instigator. That is always my opinion.
I'm fine with that.
I am fine with that too. That's always been my belief that heroic stories are better when the origin is not, you are the chosen one, but, oh, dude, I'm sorry, that thing fell on you, and now you have superpowers. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
But now what are you going to do with those superpowers?
Right.
That's the thing. It's like, Hercules didn't ask to be the son of Zeus. He just sort of got stuck with it. And it's like, well, you can either be a force for ultimate evil or a force for ultimate good. Which do you choose? That's the path before you. But no, in this concept, we do have the idea that, they shouldn't have let him leave with the sling ring. Especially after No Way Home, where they know that just anyone who can grab a sling ring, if they're pure of heart or what have you, can open up a random portal where they want, or even where they don't want, accidentally, and just start, pulling things in because they don't know what they're doing. So really, they should have confiscated the sling ring at the start. But this is where She-Hulk makes a very good point of, did you get that in writing? What agreements did you put in place? How did you approach this? And not for nothing, a magic user should know to get it in writing. You don't make deals with demons on a handshake. There's a reason they make you sign the contract.
Right. Isn't it usually like in blood and whatnot?
Oh, it's always something, and, but again, I think this speaks to basically Wong is desperate to get more sorcerers.
Although I would say all of their spells come out as these sigils, right? Sigils could be considered written language. So in a way, if you make a pact, it always has like a little, if you can make an argument that is a language that means this, and we can find a way to translate it in a way that applies to our legal system, perhaps there's an argument.
That does work, but I don't know, and this is the problem. I don't know if they're keeping as good of records as they should. And just to give you an example, from my own life, during COVID, there was a lot of emails that went back and forth, and really, in hindsight, you needed to put those emails into a separate folder. And if you're not putting them in the folder, and you just have to search every time for where did I put that email? So effectively, Donnie Blaze probably did make some kind of blood oath on his very soul that he didn't even realize at the time, which is a whole other thing about informed consent, and maybe even there's even that other layer. Well, actually, technically, he did not have the metaphysical understanding of what we were explaining to him for him to fully weigh the consent he was given. So it may be that, no, of course we have that.
In the end, he's going to find out he's the one who's liable.
Well, exactly. As we've seen, Wong plays fast and loose with a lot of American laws,
Oh, that would be hilarious.
No, to me, and as has been suggested by others, the fact that Wong is watching The Sopranos is actually intentional.
Ooh.
That Wong is kind of the Tony Soprano of the universe.
Or
this universe.
Or he sees himself that way.
Well, Tony Soprano saw himself as the Tony Soprano. I mean, that's the thing. Is like Tony Soprano is the guy who.
No, I meant Wong sees himself as the Tony Soprano. He's trying to embody that spirit because he's so infatuated with that right now.
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible, but the actual point is that Tony Soprano was not like the boss of all bosses.
Right.
He was the boss of as they say, a little tiny thing. I'm not going to use the word they used because it'll offend someone. But other people will say, well, "Why didn't you use the word? We embrace that word." So But since I'm not a midget, I'm not going to use the word. So I got it in there eventually. But when Philly Otato says, this little thing in New Jersey that we got to treat as equal to us in New York, and meanwhile, the guys in Jersey are the ones that are thinking a few steps ahead, are using new technology, whereas Philly Otato is still, dialing on payphones, which is fairly untraceable, sure, but also means that because working telephones have dropped down in use, you're going to know where that guy is. It becomes a lot more easy to track him down. But that's the thing. So in this idea, Wong is seeing himself as the guy who's trying to control the forces of the cosmos, which are, quite frankly, falling apart right now. Between Strange and No Way Home, between Wanda and Multiverse of Madness, the entire universe is breaking down. And for what it's worth, as we saw at the end of Shang-Chi, Wong is on this universe's Illuminati. He is the Sorcerer Supreme. You have Captain Marvel. You have Bruce Banner, the world's smartest man, in that room with Shang-Chi, the world's greatest martial artist, and now possessor of the 10 rings. And you actually get this thing where they're inviting this guy into this group because they realize the dangers to the multiverse are vast and people don't need to know because it's dangerous. And quite frankly, we still haven't figured out how we're going to solve it yet. Though one wonders if maybe as it goes on, we're going to see other people come into this, including possibly members of the intelligentsia, Val, all these people that are rumored that are coming. We're going to meet them all soon. But getting back to Jen's story, Jen has has to defend Wong, as you said. So she's balancing her dating life, which honestly, and this is the thing, I don't think it's that important to Jen to have a dating profile. It feels like this is just something that everyone says, Jen, you need to be out there and be in this thing. And it's like, let Jen be happy. It was Friday night and she was in her pajamas. And yes, she was more than comfortable. But
when she does find a guy that she is intrigued by, she is having a good time. Right? So there's a certain measure of when you need a good friend to say, hey, come on, man, this isn't you. And you're like, oh, man, I forgot who I was. And you need people like that around you, you know?
Okay, so that's a fair cop. And that's a fair cop. But again, like she says, she did it as She-Hulk, not Jen Walters. And this is where we start to get this little bit of bifurcation. This is where we get the other lady in the conversation. Even though Jen doesn't differentiate, there's clearly differentiations in how they approach the world, how they see the world, how they see themselves. Even with She-Hulk, as she breaks the fourth wall and she starts getting all the clicks when she's a She-Hulk and says, "Oh, this is so like this is gonna make Jen feel bad." Speaking about herself in that third person. You know, so, and again, this is where I get into this idea that I do think there's a lot more happening in the story then is belied by the goofiness, if you will.
Yeah, but like I think a certain measure of like we do that. I mean, I certainly do when I'm out partying. Party Mozz says all the time, Day Mozz will figure that out. Like so.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. Okay, and I really want to see this is the thing. I don't want to get too bogged down in all the side characters, but there's so many great side characters.
No. I think they're the highlight of this episode. Like a character that came off and immediately I didn't want to like, and by the end of it, I'm like, man, Madison.
Oh, Madison.
With 2 S's, a Y, and an N, but not where you think. Like, immediately you're like, oh, she's a useless. Oh, no, she's really cool. And by the end of it, like, I love that character. I think she's awesome.
Okay, so that actress, just because I found this out recently, who is, come on, scroller. Be nice to me. Madison King, Patty Guggenheim. First off, I do want to make a point that I heard the name Madison King. I immediately thought of Hannibal King.
Who's that?
That is a guy who worked with Blade, the vampire hunter. So that you find out that she's got a vampire hunter background. That might be an interesting concept. But Patty Guggenheim, the actress, she is actually apparently really good friends with Kat Corio. And I guess Kat Corio does most of her work. She will always put Patty Guggenheim in something. And for what it's worth, because she says, because she's just she's a brilliant comic actress who has that kind of perfect timing that, you just put her in something and she's going to do a quick little improv, and what she does with Benedict Wong, where they do their bits. And it's like, they build this whole story and this whole character arc and this whole connection because that's how they're rolling. And to have this character who, like you said, you probably were going to hate, and now they're like, we need the Madison Wonger spinoff.
Yeah.
Because, but that's what makes it good. That's what makes it interesting. And the fact of the matter is, initially she gets there and you think she's just like this vapid, oblivious person. But by the end of it, you're like, no, that's not it at all. She's completely in control. She's completely aware of what's going on, but she's just above it all. Yeah.
Right. She's just like, it's not important to me. And it really isn't. It's not that she doesn't catch what's going on. She does, but she's just like, yeah, I'll deal with it. It doesn't bother. She's unbothered by everything. It's really a great character. I thought it was really, really cool.
It is great. But see, and this is sort of, I almost feel a little down at her, because I feel they kind of wrote stuff for Cornelius Willows that got a little stepped on by her.
How do you mean?
So Cornelius Willows, that's the old guy. I'm trying to see his name, see where he falls in. Yes, Cornelius P. Willows, Leon Lamar, the 104-year-old actor who plays the mentor of Donnie Blaze.
104?
He is 104. At least that's what he's telling people.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, and he's as spry as anyone. And he does the role so well. And he was in the Hunger Games. He's been in a lot of stuff. We're kind of in the Leon Lamar Renaissance right now, where he's had a few kind of big roles.
Wait, he's nearly a decade older than the Queen.
Well, yeah, and she ain't getting any older either. So, clean living, or maybe the exact opposite. Actually, because that's the thing is, like, when I first saw that guy, he dresses exactly like the character Monaco, the Prince of Magic.
Okay. And
I was like, yes, give me Monaco. Give me Monaco. Have him be this guy who has always hated the wizarding establishment. Thought they were a bunch of elitist jerks. And quite frankly, now that they're just grabbing up disciples wherever they can find them. He's like, yeah, sure. Now you're egalitarian. Now you want to do this. No, I think you're still a bunch of jerks, and I don't trust you because as much as you say that only certain people should have the mystic arts, have you done well with them? Are you the people who should have the mystic arts? I mean, that's the thing. It's like Monaco, he was always in this spot about, magic has a cost. Much like Mordo. Magic has a cost, and everyone is writing checks, figuring we'll cash it, we'll pay it back later. We'll catch up later. And it's like, no, man, you can't catch up later. You got to be willing. Like, you want real magic, you got to be willing to give a little of yourself every single time. And, that's the interesting aspect of it. But
I also loved seeing Donnie Blaze. He played Billy Walsh in Entourage, one of the greatest characters, one of my favorite characters. He was such a maniac. But like just such an honest artist. It was, and to watch him be here, I was like, oh, I recognize that face. And it took me a while. I was like, who is that? Oh, it's Billy from Entourage.
Yeah. I mean, really, yes, I remember Billy Walsh. Yeah. And you're right. That is, they get good actors for this show. And here's the thing. I kind of get the feeling sometimes they get good actors and put them in like a tiny role and then said, don't worry. Just because you died or just because you did the one scene, don't think we're done with you. We have more to do with you, and trust us, we'll be back. Because I think all this stuff does come back eventually. And like I said, now, next episode is the one with Daredevil. And next episode, and Daredevil's next thing is Born Again. And so I think next episode is where we get the dark turn. Is where we get this moment. There's this great thing. It's a Gwenpool versus Deadpool storyline, one of my favorites, where Gwenpool is using her comic awareness to sort of trounce Deadpool. And all of a sudden, Deadpool's like, wait, comic awareness? Oh, I see what you're doing. And then uses his comic awareness to basically change it from a Gwenpool story of her and her buddies on a wacky adventure to, no, my friend, let me show you what comic awareness can do in the dark side. And like everything just changed. And like the art style changes and everything gets dark and gritty.
Oh, that's so cool.
That little flip of the universe. It's like, no, now you're in my universe, lady. And so I think we're going to get a, now you're in my universe kind of a moment in the next couple of, in the next episode, if my theories hold true, but we're gonna have to find out. But my favorite thing about Cornelius Willows is that he knew Jake, the demon that Madison made a deal with to get out of hell. He's like, oh, Jake, I know him, and it's such a one-off line. It was.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, you got to see it. It's there, and to me, it is just like, oh, they want to do something with Cornelius Willows. I think
I don't know how much time they have. They better get to it.
Well, you'd be surprised how much they can jam into a final episode, as we've seen many times before.
Well, I just meant he's 104 if they're going to do something.
That. Well, to be fair, Monaco, the Prince of Magic, has died in Doctor Strange already. So, Anyway, that's this episode. Any final thoughts before we go on to next week's episode, Mozz?
It always surprises me when the episode is over. I'm always just getting settled in. And she goes, that's a good place to end the episode. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Well, she said it was a downer. And it did have did have a good stinger at the end. So, all right. So, if everyone liked this episode, or if everyone hated this episode, which does occur, hey, Mozz, can we pause real quick?
Yeah.
You can always write to us using the internet, as people do. And I should have opened this up before I started talking.
In that old-fashioned email way.
Yes.
Pause and pause one stick.
Yes. You can write to us at CapesandLunatics, spelled out, all one word, A-N-D, between the Capes and Lunatics, at gmail.com. Or if you're a much more fancy person, you can call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And you can leave us your thoughts, either written or spoken, about how awesome this episode was or something else. And likewise, you can go down into the show notes, click on Linktree, that's linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics, and that's going to link you to all of the shows in the Capes and Lunatics family, as well as all of our merch, like fancy aluminum mugs, t-shirts, and the like, for both the Capes and Lunatics shows and the Capes and Lunatics sidekick shows. And if people do that, while they do that, they can also give us some money, because we like money. Give us money, because we produce this all ourselves through our Patreon. And we would be most thankful. We are doing, our Patreons get to vote on things. We're doing the worst superhero movies of all time. Next week, we're recording The Phantom versus the Spirit. Make your votes now. The Shadow was just too dang good because it had Tim Curry in it. That's why it did not make the cut. Anyway, Mozz, if people like that, or they do that, or they want to talk to us about that, and they want to talk to you specifically, reach out to you, see if you're okay, make sure that you aren't being held against your will, how can they contact you?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. It's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, where Mozz and Paz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things like Stargirl, which I'm not live tweeting tonight because we're watching it as we're recording it. And that's how that happens sometimes. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, filthy landlubbers. You have come across the briny Sargassus of the internet to listen to our show as we sail back out again into that Sargassus to find the best streaming television out there for you to watch along with us. And when you do, just remember, fasten your seatbelts and get ready to sail full stream ahead. Arrgh.